Hey world, what up? NBA talk, NBA basketball. Let's kind of jump into here. So within the NBA, it's been around 15 to 20 games for each of the teams that have been playing. It is a 72 game season. And even though it's 15 to 20 games into the season, a quarter that's been played, you're still always going to hear about MVP talk. Now, I say it's still premature to have that discussion, but it's always going to be there. So I want to cover a little more into here because every time you go around social media, you're looking at these shows, yada, yada, yada. You're always going to have you're always going to have fans that are suggesting who should be MVP and for the reasons. And I've seen around 4 to 5 names be thrown around consistently. And it's not very consistent when it comes to one player for, a large demographic. So essentially, as number one, we've been hearing about Joel Embiid, who pretty much has the best record in the Eastern Conference with the Philadelphia 76ers at a 15-6 record over in the East. And with Joel Embiid within the season, he's played 16 out of those games. He'll give you around 30 minutes a night. And pretty much when you're looking into the numbers of Joel Embiid, he is averaging 28 points a night directly and giving around 11 rebounds as well. Joel Embiid right now should be the top for the MVP discussion. Now, it is close with these players. It's not stretched out to where someone's in a huge lead and he's by his own island. Joel Embiid should be number one as of right now. It is still premature. 15-6 record, best in the Eastern Conference. Been hearing names also of Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and NIKOLA Jokic. Those are pretty much the top four we've been hearing about. Giannis will not be going back-to-back. That's not going to happen. There is voter fatigue, but not only from that. The Milwaukee Bucks they're not the best record in the NBA. They're not the best team anymore. The last 2 seasons, Giannis has performed at a high level, and let alone the Bucks were always number one. The Bucks right now are at 11-8 record, so I don't fully expect Giannis to win it. That's not going to happen. So pretty much within the majority of the season and kind of going a little further out, I fully expect for Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James to be the main guys, and they'll make their cases. Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. Now, Luka was an early favorite, and we had much more higher expectations for the Dallas Mavericks, but they are sitting at a 13 seed in the Western Conference at an 8-12 record, and they have some internal problems as of right now. So I've always stated Luka can win it if he pretty much gets a top 5 record in the West and he does his thing. I doubt that's going to happen. So we have to see what happens with Dallas and Luka Doncic. But as of right now, you're going to have to give it to Joel Embiid for right now. Again, it's premature. So as more weeks kind of come in and within a month later, we're really going to see that the games played and let alone how many games you're behind from the number one seed is really going to differentiate for around 5 to 6 games. And we'll see a little more into that because right now 15 games is very premature to say the least. So right now I'm fine with you go with Joel Embiid. It's not a big deal. In the long run, I fully expect LeBron James to be at the top to win it because LeBron James and the Lakers, they're going to finish with either the first or second seed in the Western Conference. Preferably number one seed, which is going to be the case. If LeBron does his thing, if he has the best record in basketball and puts up his normal 25, 8-7, something along those lines, the media will make sure to give him his last MVP, of course, to tie Michael Jordan when they're having those debates. If you're looking at Joel Embiid, that's a situation to where I don't know if he's durable enough, let alone if he can be consistent throughout a whole season to keep this up. Maybe he can. Kudos to him if that's the case. Nikola Jokic, he's he just came off a 46-point performance, I believe. If it was 46 or so. He gave you around like 31 in the first half, but Nikola Jokic has always been underrated. I just don't expect the Denver Nuggets to have a better record than the Lakers or the Clippers in the West. So who knows about that? And then with Kevin Durant and the Brooklyn Nets, you did bring in James Harden, and you do have Kyrie Irving on that team. So maybe with the James Harden trade, he's not really going to get the quote-unquote credit. Now, he is coming off a huge injury, and he's giving you 30 a night. So the Brooklyn Nets are the 13-9 record in the East, second seed. I've been talking too much. Let's jump into here on ESPN, and we'll cover a little more about the MVP talk.
Welcome back to The Jump. Rachel Nichols still here with Matt Barnes. And welcome in to the host of the Hoop Collective podcast, New York Times bestseller, live from the Cobra Dome. Oh, yes, It's Brian Windhorst. Guys, we've got some good games on ESPN tonight, so let's get you ready for those with a new edition of Jump Ball. First up, if we go inside the Sixers-Lakers face-off, who on those teams is more likely to win MVP, LeBron James or Joel Embiid?
As of right now, Joel Embiid. Looking into the end of the season, 72 games from now, I'm going to say the LA Lakers and LeBron James because, again, LeBron's at a higher position to have the best record in basketball. LeBron is durable, of course, and he's going to be consistent as it's going to be. If it's ever against LeBron and Joel Embiid, if it is close, they're going to give it to LeBron James. They want him to squeak out his last regular season MVP, let alone being 36 years of age. The Philadelphia 76ers, I don't know if they can keep that number one seed in the East. I don't think that's going to be the case for that consistency to be. The Philadelphia 76ers, they're going to be a top 3, top 4 seed in the West or in the Eastern Conference, but if they were to hold down that number one seed, kudos to them. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Milwaukee Bucks are finally going to come back down to earth, and they'll actually realize their game. And usually with Giannis and his team, they're number one in the East. I expect the Milwaukee Bucks to rise up. Same thing with the Boston Celtics finally having Jason Tatum back. And then the Brooklyn Nets with their big three. They'll be up in that picture. So the beginning of the season, I predicted the Bucks to have the first seed, second to the Celtics, third to the Nets, and then yada, yada, yada. So the Philadelphia 76ers, they'll be up there. I don't know if they'll hold that number one seed. And Joel Embiid has, a third or fourth seed in the East for his team. He's not going to win MVP. So if I'm going to put all my eggs in the basket, LeBron James.
Embiid, of course, never won the award. LeBron, 4-time winner. The Sixers have the best record in the East so far. And according to Caesars William Hill, James has now moved into having the second best odds to win, while Embiid is in 6th. So, Brian, who you got of those two? We're just staying within this game right now.
And again, right now, short-term, premature 15, 20 games. Sure, Joel Embiid, of course. But in the long run, it's going to narrow down to LeBron or maybe even Kevin Durant. Joel Embiid will still be top 3 in that mix, but I just don't see the durability and the consistency for the Sixers. That's just how I see it. Who knows? But LeBron's in the best position to win MVP. And the times LeBron James did not win MVP, he did not have the best record in basketball. So in 2013, the Miami Heat, 66-16 record, best in the league. LeBron was having an amazing season, both offensively and defensively. He deserved that MVP. And then kind of the next following years, if he was on the Heat, the Cavaliers, the Lakers, they did not have the best record in basketball with those other teams coming in. And usually LeBron would be top 2, top 3 in MVP discussion. If it was him against Harden, him against Steph Curry, him against Giannis, and somewhere in that mix. So LeBron's get the best record in basketball, which is going to be which is trending. He's going to get the best record in basketball for the LA Lakers. So if he gets that and does his normal numbers, they'll give him the MVP. And that's why I'm putting my eggs in the basket.
Rachel, let's go back to a conversation LeBron had with you on national television in Orlando.
Yes.
Where I believe he said, "Give me my damn respect."
And that is accurate.
As an MVP voter, I have to say that I don't regret my vote for Giannis last year because Giannis had one of the greatest all seasons of all time and the Bucks were amazing. But watching...
Real quick, the playoffs do not count. I do not want to hear about Giannis and the Miami Heat second round matchup. That affects 0 of his MVP voting. It's a regular season award. Giannis Antetokounmpo deserved the 2020 NBA MVP over LeBron James. They had the best record in basketball. Giannis was the Defensive Player of the Year, MVP. He was pretty much the cover of the whole NBA. For the regular season, though. Giannis has come down to earth as within this season, but Giannis deserved that over LeBron James. I do not want to hear anything about LeBron James deserved it over Giannis. Giannis was pretty much 65% deserved to him, and then the other 35% was LeBron.
LeBron in the bubble, it reinforced the distance between him and everybody else. And with this season the way it is, where it's scattered, where there's a lot of guys going to be playing different levels of games, and because of LeBron, he's worth something more than 4 MVPs. I don't know if it should be 5. I don't know if it should be 7. I think the narrative...
No, sir. LeBron James deserved every single one of those 4 MVPs and no more. I do not want to hear anything from 2014 to 2020 that LeBron James deserved at least 3 more MVPs. That is not the case. I'll break it down if I have to. LeBron James did not deserve 2014 to 2020 if he were to win? 0.
Which, as we know, is so important in the MVP race. I think the narrative is on LeBron's side. And I think if he keeps playing this way, it's going to be very compelling for people like me who have not voted for him in recent years for various reasons, even if they were good, even though Joel Embiid is having a spectacular year.
Well, yeah, and they're going to give it to LeBron James, and that's not a bad thing. LeBron will deserve it. I mean, if the season were to end today, I mean, you can go with Embiid or LeBron. I'm cool with it. I mean, KD's also in that picture right now. Some kudos and love to NIKOLA Jokic. It's premature. It's only 20 games. In the long run, consistently, LeBron James will be up there. If not number 1, then 2. And if it's LeBron against Joel Embiid at the end of the season, LeBron's team's going to have the better record. LeBron James is going to be more consistent, playing more games. They'll give it to him. So I'm not really shocked about it. My predictions before the season, I had 3 players, Luka, KD, and LeBron in that mix. I took off Steph Curry because whenever he plays without Klay Thompson, it's not a high level. But I'll give some love to Steph Curry as well. But they're only at 11-9 record, 8 seed. I expect the Warriors to pretty much fall up around 6 to 8 seed in the West if they're making the playoffs. If not that, a 9th or 10th seed. But getting a little off topic.
Rach, I need to know, now that I'm part of the media, how do I get my vote?
I'm gonna hook you up into a conference call with Tim Frank. We'll work it out.
I need to get in here. I'm taking LeBron, and as Brian alluded to, he should have at least 5, 6, 7, maybe 8.
Stop it. Stop. LeBron James does not deserve more than 4 MVPs. Listen, in 2014, it was either Kevin Durant or LeBron James. LeBron won 2 in a row. And Kevin Durant, he did not have Russell Westbrook for the last 30 games or so. KD was a scoring title out there. He brought the Oklahoma City Thunder to a 2nd seed in the West. He deserved it over LeBron. In 2015, it was either Steph Curry or James Harden. LeBron James was not top 2. No. It was either Steph Curry or James Harden. Now we're going to 2016. Steph Curry, easy. He had the greatest MVP regular season of all time. You can debate him or Michael Jordan. That's when they went 73-9. Steph Curry was the greatest player in the world during that 2016 regular season. In 2017, that's when Russell Westbrook went against James Harden. Russell Westbrook had his former teammate Kevin Durant leave, and he brought this team to a 6 seed, averaged a triple-double, was the player of the league. Not the player of the league, but he was the regular season award type player, if you know what I'm saying. He wasn't the best player. But he deserved that MVP, and it was close to either him or James Harden. LeBron James was not in the top 2 picture. 2018 regular season, who we saw won? James Harden, easy, number 1 seed in the Western Conference MVP season. LeBron James was not going against James Harden when it came to that. Harden was pretty much on the island by himself to win that award. Next season, 2019. Giannis easily won that award. It was either Giannis or Harden, the top 2. Giannis won it as deserved to be. And LeBron didn't make the playoffs, so no. And then into 2020, it was either Giannis or LeBron James. But Giannis deserved that, like I said before. So.
You can say the same thing about Kobe back in the day. He should add more MVPs. I think the league gets caught up sometimes in getting what's new, what's fresh. Obviously, Giannis being MVP, brings a different attention from overseas. But LeBron has been the best player for a long time. He should definitely have more under his belt. But this year, I just love that it seems like he's so at peace with his game. And his team understands what they have to do, lead the league in defensive efficiency, understanding this is a marathon, not a sprint. So not only are they going to be, is it their title to lose, I also think it's LeBron's MVP to lose as well, because he's definitely, to me, in the front seat and should win it this year.
Well, I would argue.
And again, short term, as of right now, it's premature, but Joel Embiid. Long term, it'll be LeBron James, because Giannis is not going to be in that picture. And if it's either LeBron against Jokic or Embiid, LeBron's getting the nod. If it's LeBron against Kevin Durant, I'm really going to have to see the rankings, because if the Nets are the number 1 seed, best basketball, KD's still averaging 30, then yeah, you'll give it to KD. But I fully expect the LA Lakers to have the best record in basketball, and LeBron James to average the typical 25, 8-8, something like that. Then they'll give it to LeBron.
That it's not a matter of voters getting caught up with what's new or fresh. It's about the criteria for the
Real quick, and Anthony Davis is averaging 22 a game. So LeBron James is leading the league, or my bad, leading the Lakers in scoring and pretty much being the main guy. So that kind of helps LeBron James's case.
Award, and poor Brian has had to hear me say this for 5 years now, but you know, Matt, I have a new audience with you, so I'm just going to go into it just a little bit again. The direction is who has had the best regular season, and LeBron James at times, and look, last year, as Brian pointed out, Giannis had a historic regular season, and that is what the award has been for. It has not been for who's the best player in the NBA, and the league has played into this by not modernizing and updating its awards the way, frankly, every other major pro U.S. sports league has.
Well, usually if you win MVP, it's pretty simple. It's if you're pretty much the player of the year award, and then you mix that in to impact your valuable, are you a top team in the Western or Eastern Conference or in the NBA? As of right now, due to that criteria, Joel Embiid has been pretty much the player of the year award, mixed with the 76ers having the #1 record in the East and him putting up monster numbers at 28 a game. So you have to give it to Joel Embiid as of right now. In the long run, again, it'll go to LeBron.
They have updated their awards, they have added scoring awards, or they have added awards that recognize the statistical best season being separate from who is the best player. And so that is why we have ended up with LeBron James not winning more MVPs. Before him, Kobe.
And like I said before, for the past decade, they have been correct on every single MVP. Now, there's some ones that have been very close. 2015 was very close with Steph Curry and James Harden, but I'm fine with them giving it to Steph Curry with the Warriors. 2014 was close with LeBron James and Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant deserved it, as should be. And then lastly actually there's two more. So 2017 with Russ against Harden, that was a very close one, that pretty much took the last 2 weeks in basketball to make a clear, conscious decision. And then 2019 with Giannis and Harden, that was a close one as well. But they've been correct on all the MVPs this past decade.
Bryant not winning more MVPs. Frankly, Michael Jordan not winning more MVPs. And I think there has been a bit of a turn among fans and even among some writers, and Brian, I think you're alluding to this a little bit, of just saying, okay, maybe we're just going to start awarding this for who we all know who the best player in the NBA is in a given year. And right now you could make an argument for LeBron.
Listen, they're just talking the talk right now, two-dimensional talking, because it's hot topics. Listen, if you actually evaluate each season and you actually, you evaluate each player, each, team standings, yada, yada, it's very simple and straightforward, but no one wants to hear it because when they hear LeBron James's name and his legacy, of course, they're going to say he deserved more MVPs. They're just talking, what? They don't know anything. It's just like a hot topic discussion. No one wants to break down what needs to be said and what needs to be heard. LeBron James deserves 4 MVPs. He is exactly where he needs to be on regular season MVPs.
Are making an argument for Kevin Durant resurging. That is different from who has the best statistical season this year, and it will be interesting to me to see how voters vote at the end of this year, because as you point out, Matt, that disparity between who's the best player in the NBA versus who had the best stats, it seems like in some ways it's only grown since we have more stats.
And LeBron James has been the greatest player in the world for the past decade. Now, in 2016, that regular season, it was Steph Curry. And I always state, if you're going to be saying you're the best player in the world, you have to pretty much pass the torch, and you can't switch from best player in the world from year to year or month after month. But Steph Curry in the 2016 regular season, when they went 73-9, he won unanimous MVP back-to-back. Steph Curry was on top of the world. He was over LeBron James. He was. But LeBron James came back in the finals and retook the throne, retook the crown and the best player in the world label. But LeBron's always been pretty much the best player in the world for the past decade. MVP's way different. That's pretty much Player of the Year award for the regular season, and then you mix in the MVP credentials. They've been accurate.
It's tough for me, as a former player, and this is all due respect to Giannis because he does have great regular seasons, but if you can't go to the MVP in the playoffs when it really counts, when the world is watching, when everything is on the line, how can you consistently continue to win MVP? LeBron is someone you can go to. KD is someone you can go to. Luka is someone you can go to. So
that doesn't matter. Listen, if Giannis Antetokounmpo had the best record in basketball, averaging a triple-double, 30 points a night, dominating, no one's going to take into effect what happened in the playoffs the past seasons. he'll still win regular season MVP if that scenario was the case. Now, when you're talking about the playoffs, that's a different animal, different atmosphere, different layer. That has nothing to do with regular season MVP. Since he's won 2 in a row and since he lost in a bad fashion to the Miami Heat, of course, if it's close between LeBron James and Giannis again, they're going to give it to LeBron because, there's voter fatigue. But let alone, they'll keep that in the back end, but it shouldn't be a big thing.
Not knocking Giannis because his regular seasons have been off the charts, but as a player and guys and how we talk in the locker room, if you can't go to an MVP down the stretch in a playoff game, how is he MVP?
Yeah, but Matt Barnes, it's a regular season MVP award for a reason. Don't bring playoffs. It's regular season.
Yep, absolutely. And again, that's with the way the league has set up voting. Voting is done at the end of the regular season. So you can't even make that judgment or have that conversation when you're doing an MVP vote because it's supposed to be.
And the NBA messed up big time 3 years ago in 2017 with Russ winning MVP. Well, he deserved it, but typically the first or second game within the first round of the playoffs, that's when they would announce the MVP and all the other award members, which was perfect as to be. But in 2017, they created this stupid award show at the end of the season after the championship, kind of like an Oscars, yada yada, and they would release it during then, which made zero sense. I don't know why they're doing it now. I mean, of course, to make money and have that appearance, but it's been terrible for the NBA because if you're an MVP award winner and you're in the first round at home, you receive the reward in front of the commissioner and all the fans. Everyone knows who the MVP is, so there's different qualification, there's different pressure for you, which was perfect as could be. But now, for example, like in 2020, at the end of the regular season and you're in the playoffs, Giannis and LeBron don't even know if they're going to win the regular season award. So it takes it out of the picture. It's not a good look, especially when Giannis got bounced by the Miami Heat. LeBron was the championship. And then you figure out LeBron James did not win MVP, and it was Giannis. Even though Giannis deserved it, but the momentum was gone away. You're talking about 2 to 3 months after the regular season. So so that's why you had a lot of backlash of people hating on Giannis winning the award because they just saw him flame out in the playoffs and LeBron win the championship. So timelines don't match up, but wanted to cover a little on that. But yeah, overall, as of right now, Joel Embiid, but it's very close. It's premature, 15, 20 games. In the long run, I fully expect LeBron James to capture his last regular season MVP award. The Lakers should be number 1 in the Western Conference as to be. They're 10-11 deep. Don't have to get too much into it. I'm curious to see if the 76ers can be consistent with Joel Embiid along this way. I don't expect that to be. They'll still be a top 3, top 4 seed in the East and a contender, of course. But I don't know. Maybe surprised and shocked on that. Kudos and love to Kevin Durant as well, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see with the Brooklyn Nets, the big 3, and if they'll take away from his credentials or if they'll be number 1 in the East. But I'm going to cover from there. Kick it off.